So I was going down a rabbit hole the other night, and I came across this case that genuinely had me sitting there at like 2 a.m. just staring at my screen. A woman disappears from a cruise ship, middle of the night, Caribbean Ocean. No body, no evidence, nothing. But then, months later, a US Navy officer walks into a brothel in Curaçao, and a woman grabs his arm, looks him dead in the eyes, and says, "I'm Amy Bradley. I'm being held here against my will. Please help me." He didn't know who Amy Bradley was, so he did nothing. It wasn't until years later that he came forward, and by then, the brothel had burned down. That's the case we're covering today. And trust me, the deeper you go into this one, the more questions you end up with. This is forgotten history. Let's talk about what really happened to Amy Bradley. So, March 1998. Amy Bradley is 23 years old, living in Petersburg, Virginia. And honestly, life is going pretty well for her. She just finished university. Degree in physical education from Longwood University. She was athletic, loved basketball, loved being active. Her friends described her as the kind of person who could walk into any room and just own it. Confident, funny, always up for a good time. She had just moved into a brand new apartment, a new job lined up, starting the Monday after the cruise, and literally the day before the family left for the trip, she went and adopted a puppy. A little female bulldog she called Daisy. Think about that. New apartment, new job, new puppy. This girl had everything going for her. Her dad, Ron, had won a free cruise from his employer. 7 days on Royal Caribbean's Rhapsody of the Seas through the Caribbean. The whole family came. Ron, his wife Iva, Amy, and her younger brother Brad, who was 21. It was meant to be a celebration of Amy finishing university. They set sail from San Juan, Puerto Rico on March 21st, 1998. By March 24th, Amy was gone, and Daisy was still waiting at home. So the cruise was going great. The family were having the time of their lives. Aruba, beautiful weather, good food, everything was exactly what a dream vacation is supposed to be. Then came the night of March 23rd. Amy and her brother Brad decided to stay up late. There was a Mardi Gras themed disco party happening on the 9th floor deck. Music, dancing, drinks, they were having a blast. At the disco, Amy caught the attention of the ship's live band, a group called Blue Orchid. Specifically, one of the band members, a bass player named Alistair Douglas, nicknamed Yellow. Amy spent a good part of the night dancing with him. Now, I want you to remember that name, Alistair Douglas, because he becomes very important later. At some point in the early hours of March 24th, Amy and Brad headed back toward their family's cabin. The last person to see Amy that night was her father, Ron. He looked out from the cabin and saw Amy lying on the balcony, relaxed, like she had just stepped outside to get some air before bed. He went back to sleep. When he checked again 30 minutes later, Amy was gone. Just like that. In the space of 30 minutes, she vanished from a balcony on a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean. Here's where things start to get frustrating. Really frustrating. Ron and Iva immediately told the ship's crew that Amy was missing. And what happened next is honestly one of the most criticised parts of this entire case. The crew told them it was too early to make a ship-wide announcement. Think about that for a second. A 23-year-old woman is missing on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean, and the crew said it was too early to announce it. They waited. They searched quietly. By the time a ship-wide announcement was made, asking Amy to come to the purser's desk, a majority of passengers had already left the ship at the port of Curaçao. That delay, those hours, could have been everything. Because here's what happened during that time. A cab driver at the Curaçao docks later told the family that he saw a young woman matching Amy's description running through the parking lot, looking desperately for a phone. He remembered her green eyes from the missing poster. He was certain it was her. But by the time anyone knew to look, she was already gone from the port. Royal Caribbean sent a boat to search the water. The Coast Guard sent 3 helicopters and a radar plane. They searched and searched. Nothing. Amy Bradley had vanished.
Now let's talk about Alastair Douglas, because this part of the case has always bothered people. After Amy disappeared, the FBI got involved quickly. One of the first people they interviewed was Douglas, the bass player Amy had been dancing with all night. His story was that he and Amy parted ways around 1 a.m. He said he went to the staff elevator and Amy went in the opposite direction. He claimed he had no idea what happened to her after that. But here's the thing that Brad, Amy's brother, told investigators. Shortly after Amy was reported missing, Douglas came up to Brad and said, "Hey man, I'm sorry to hear about your sister." No announcement had been made yet. How did Douglas know she was missing? The FBI gave Douglas a polygraph test. Royal Caribbean said he passed, but years later, his own daughter, Amika Douglas, came forward and said she wasn't convinced her father had nothing to do with it. She said when he came home from that cruise, he was distant, different. And she found something in his bag that disturbed her. Photos of white women who were not her mother. The FBI found no evidence to charge Douglas. He was never arrested. But that conversation with Brad, that timing, people have never been able to get past it.
Now here is where this case goes from a tragic disappearance to something much more sinister. Amy was declared legally dead in March 2010, 12 years after she vanished, but her family never accepted that. And honestly, when you look at the sightings, it's hard to blame them. Sighting 1. The beach in Curaçao. In August 1998, 5 months after Amy disappeared, 2 Canadian scuba divers were walking on a beach in Curaçao. They saw a woman with tattoos that matched Amy's exactly, including a distinctive Tasmanian devil tattoo on her shoulder. When one of them spoke English within earshot of the woman, she turned around and started walking toward them, like she recognized the language, like she was about to say something. Then one of the 2 men with her grabbed her and pulled her away. She never got to speak. Sighting 2. The brothel. This is the one that made investigators go cold.
In January 1999, 10 months after Amy disappeared, a US Navy petty officer was at a brothel in Curaçao.
A white woman approached him, and she grabbed his arm and said, "I'm Amy Bradley. I'm being held here against my will. Please help me." He didn't know who Amy Bradley was. He didn't help her. It wasn't until 2002 that he came forward and told this story. He said he had stayed quiet because he was afraid his naval career would suffer if people found out he had been to a brothel. When investigators tried to follow up, the brothel had burned down. Sighting 3. The photo. In 2005, a member of an organization that searches for human trafficking victims found something disturbing online. On a website advertising erotic vacations in the Caribbean, there was a photo of a woman called Jas, and she bore a striking resemblance to Amy Bradley. Same facial features, same body type, same tattoos.
Here's a detail that doesn't get talked about enough, and honestly, it's one of the strangest parts of this whole case. Amy had taken 15 rolls of film with her on the cruise. She was making a photo collage for her coffee table when she got home.
She was photographing everything. The ports, the people, the memories. On the last night of the cruise, the ship's photographer had printed out all the photos taken throughout the voyage to sell at a stall. It was standard practice on cruise ships. Amy's parents went to find her photos. They were gone. Every single photo of Amy from the cruise had been removed from the stall, taken by someone before the family could get to them. Who took them? Why? Before or after she disappeared? Nobody has ever answered that.
So what do we actually think happened to Amy Bradley? The cruise line's official position was that she fell or jumped overboard, accident or suicide. But investigators said there was no evidence of either. Amy was a trained lifeguard. She was happy. She had a new apartment, a new job, a puppy waiting at home. Nothing pointed to suicide. And if she fell overboard, why were there so many sightings of her alive on land? The theory that Amy's family and many investigators believe is human trafficking. That somewhere between that balcony and the port of Curaçao, Amy was taken by someone on that ship or waiting at the dock and sold into a life she never chose. The Caribbean at that time had a well-known problem with trafficking networks operating through the islands. The sightings all pointed to Curaçao, the woman in the brothel, the beach, the photos of jars. In 2025, 27 years later, Netflix released a documentary called Amy Bradley is Missing. And when it came out, something remarkable happened. The FBI received hundreds of new tips. 3 of them were described as very significant by investigators. The case is still open. The FBI still offers a $25,000 reward for information. Amy's mum, Iva, has said it best. We just want our daughter back. That's all we've ever wanted.
Amy Bradley went on that cruise with her whole life ahead of her. A new job, a new apartment, a puppy named Daisy waiting for her to come home. She never made it back. 27 years later, her family is still searching, still fighting, still believing she's out there somewhere. And maybe she is. If you know anything about the disappearance of Amy Bradley, the FBI tip line is still active. You can report information to your local FBI office or the nearest American embassy. This case isn't closed. It's just waiting for the right person to speak up. If this story hit you the way it hit me, subscribe. Drop your theory in the comments. Share this with someone who loves true crime. Because the more people know about Amy, the better the chances someone, somewhere, remembers something. I'll see you in the next one.